Now we're going to dive into our data for our saved games so that we can start saving them. In our game manager, we've got the new game method that just right now logs out new game called. We'll leave that in for a moment, but let's think about what needs to happen when we create a new game. The only data that we have right now for our game is our player datas. If I hit F12 on it, remember that's a list of player data objects, and the player data objects right now store the coins and health. We'll of course store more information with these later, but these are the two things that we care about right now that we've actually saved off. So we need to save our player datas into some sort of structure or some sort of format that we can reload later. And then we need to be able to create a new set of player datas when our player chooses new game. And what we want to do here is bundle these player datas and all of the future stuff into an object that'll store all of the data for our game. And we'll call that a game data object. Let's go to the player data class. I'm going to control click on it. And right below player data, I'm just going to add in a new public class called GameData. We'll add on a list of player datas, a public list of player data, and we'll call this player datas and initialize it to a new list by default. With that, we'll add the serializable attribute so that we can see it all in the inspector and so that we can serialize it in just a moment. And then we'll go back over to our game manager. Our game manager has this list of player datas, and I want to get rid of this now and replace it with a single game data. So we'll get rid of the list of player datas here and just put a game data underscore game data. That's going to give us some errors, and I find that one of the best ways to figure out what code needs to be changed is to do a Control-Shift-B, do a build, and get all of my errors down below. It'll tell me the spots where the code no longer works because I've deleted something. It says here the name player data does not exist, and does not exist, and does not exist. Here, see it's on line 52, 55, and 57, but I don't need to care about that. I can just double click on them to go to them. So we don't have our player datas anymore, but we do have a game data that has player datas on it. So instead of calling player datas, we'll call underscore game data dot player datas. So you see that now we're referencing the player datas on our game data object instead of a list in our game manager. We'll copy this game data.player datas, put it on my clipboard with Control or Command C, and then paste it over these two remaining player datas. I'll hit Control-Shift-B, my build is successful, and my data should still work exactly the same as it did before, but now I've got it wrapped into this game data object. Let's just go verify that real quick. Make sure that I've built, go into Unity, we'll press play, and we'll hit the new game button. Oh, the new game button right now doesn't load us into a new game. So let's just play, make sure that we don't have any errors at the very least. Looks good. And then let's go hook it up so that our new game button throws us into level 1. We'll go into the new game button, go to the new game method with F12, and right after we call the new game called log message, let's say scene manager dot load scene, and we're going to load level 1. Now, if your scene manager doesn't show up, of course, make sure that you go up here and you got your using Unity Engine.scene management statement there. This got automatically added, so you want to make sure that if it doesn't auto add, you go add it up there at the top so that it turns blue and you don't have an error. All right, now that I've got my load scene, let's just go in and play one more time, make sure that our data looks good, and I get a player that has 6 points of health and no coins when I start a new game. Let's check that out. That's what I expect to see. So I load up, I've got 6 health. I can take some damage. Let's go get a coin real quick. Got 4 coins. Let's go into level 2. Got 5 health and 4 coins. We'll go back into level 1. 5 health and 4 coins. I should be able to die now. Let's go let ourselves die. And he says now for, boom, I'm dead. And now if I hit new game, we come back in and well, I've got 4 health. And I've got, I've got no health, sorry, and 4 coins. So my new game isn't clearing out or resetting our player data. And that's our next step. So let's go into our new game called method. And right here, before we call our load scene, let's say underscore game data equals new game data. So we're going to be creating a new game data object whenever we call new game, which makes sense, right? We're creating a new game. We should be creating a new object for that data. So let's minimize our editor again, try it one more time. And now we should expect to see that when we hit new game, we get a fresh character, but when we kind of bounce between levels, we have our same character data. So we hit new game. We'll go grab a coin, switch levels. I'm at 6 there. Let's go switch levels again. We'll go take some damage. Let's see, 3. I'm just gonna go into level 2 again. We're just gonna make sure everything is good. Looks right. I've got my 3 health and my 6 coins. And if I go over here and die, we should get right back to the menu. And then new game gives me a fresh character with no coins and full health. I can bounce around and I've got the same thing happening. That's 7 coins. The 7 looks a lot like a 1. All right, so now we can see that things are working and the new game system is starting to come together. Next up, we're gonna have to figure out how to save and load. So let's go into the project or the plastic SCM window so that we've set up a new game system. Well, game data and new game system. Added game data and the new game system is hooked up. And we'll hit check in changes.